Welcome to Holding Down the Fort by U.S. VetWealth. I'm your host, Jen Amos, a Gold Star daughter, veteran spouse, and upcoming author. This season, we're helping seasoned spouses explore new opportunities and ideas outside the military so that they can make more confident choices for their next chapter. Why? Because you too are retiring, and now it's your turn. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you've been having an incredible summer. I sure have. That said, I know it's been a while, which is why I'm excited to release this full interview in one podcast episode. Since I've come back to the show last fall in 2025, which is crazy to think that was a year ago, I have been breaking up interviews into at least 2 episodes for scheduling reasons. But now that it's been a while, I figured I might as well just give you the full interview with Mike and Steve from the Bob Feller Active Valor Award Foundation to talk about the Champions of Valor Scholarship Program. So special shout out to Michael. He was a previous guest on our show all the way back to 2020. Check it out, episode 54. I'll have that in the show notes of this episode. But for this conversation, Mike and Steve share their military background and what led them to their involvement with the Bob Feller Active Valor Award Foundation, including their roles throughout the years and their roles today. They share their involvement and passion for the Champions of Valor Scholarship Program. They explain how veterans, service members, military spouses, and students of military families can apply for the scholarship program. And talking about another nonprofit, Mike shares his experience playing for a veteran softball team on behalf of Folds of Honor and how a Gold Star family member's comment impacted him. Additionally, I decide to share my perspective as a recipient or just someone aware of organizations such as the Champions of Valor Scholarship Program and the Folds of Honor that Michael talks about. You know, these organizations that provide resources to Gold Star family members and military-connected people like myself. Because it's one thing to give back to the community, and it's another thing to be the recipient of that. So I hope you appreciate my perspective on that. Additionally, we jump back to talking about the scholarship program, and Steve shares the impact of opening up the scholarship program to military spouses. And then Michael explains how he holds military spouses in high regard. And last but not least, we wrap up with Mike and Steve sharing their experience with the Survivor Benefit Plan decision during their military retirement and really emphasize that the SBP is a personal choice based on, personal circumstances. So that is the overview of our hour-long conversation. I hope that you enjoy this as much as I did. Mike and Steve, I just want to say thanks again for being a guest on my show. And for anyone that is interested in applying, their scholarship program is accepting applications until October 1st. And you can apply today by visiting actofvaloraward.org. And as I said, I will include that in the show notes of this episode. So please enjoy this conversation. Last but not least, I do want to give a very, very special shout out to Stephanie Brown, the founder and CEO of the Rosie Network. Of course, I mentioned the organization so many times throughout the years. Stephanie has honored me by writing the foreword of my book, Your Pension Too. Her foreword is now available in my book, available for a free PDF download simply by subscribing to my podcast. Just go to insidethefort.com, subscribe, and in the welcome email, you will hear firsthand Stephanie Brown's experience when it came to her family's personal decision with the Survivor Benefit Plan. So my book will always be free. Right now, it's only available via PDF, but stay tuned for physical copies. All right, so now let's get into this conversation with Mike and Steve. Enjoy. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Holding Down the Fort by US VetWealth. I am really excited to be bringing back a past guest from 2020. I looked this up and it's ridiculous. You were one of the first guests to be on my show. So, Michael, welcome to the show. And also, we have a special guest with us, Steve. And these two today are going to be talking to us about the champions of the Valor Scholarship Program from the Bob Feller Act of Valor Foundation. So, Michael, welcome back. First and foremost, to start with you. How's it going?
Well, thanks, Jenna, and it's my absolute pleasure to be back. Thank you for the invitation to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, I'm meeting you for the first time. I've only heard about you through Michael and what I found online. So why don't you just tell our listeners who are getting to know you for the first time a bit of your professional background as well as your involvement with the foundation?
Okay, yes. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, be able to talk about specifically the scholarship program. I'm a retired command sergeant major from the U.S. Army. Had 30 years of service. I started out with the 82nd Airborne as a paratrooper in the infantry, and then went into the National Guard. I was full-time National Guard for over 20 years and deployed to Grenada a long time ago to rescue the American students with the 82nd, and also had a tour to Bosnia and 2 tours to Iraq uh, with the aviation unit, where I was a helicopter crew chief and a flight medic on a Black Hawk helicopter. But it was my calling. I loved the military, and I got involved with the foundation shortly after retirement. I actually knew Bob Feller personally. Was really, actually, I could say, pretty close friends with him. And after his passing, his widow Anne told me about the foundation, so I became the education committee chair for quite a few years, and then now I'm presently vice president of the organization. So we like to say we had kind of one of the first. Well, I came involved in 2014, shortly after uh, Peter Fertig founded it in 2013. So it's a great organization. I'm very proud to do what I can to honor our military veterans, as well as educating about our 4 pillars, which we can get a little deeper later if you wish.
Absolutely. I mean, sounds like 12 plus years with the foundation and knowing Bob Feller personally. That's just incredible. You must have a wealth of knowledge and I'd say reason and purpose to do the work that you do and still do it today.
Yeah, there's no one any more patriotic than Bob Feller was, and that's what, if I may, I actually met him because I'm a big baseball fan anyway. I actually met him in a baseball card show, and as soon as I mentioned about being in the military, uh, that up a conversation. And when I got back from Bosnia, he invited me out there as his guest, to my wife and I, to a game as his guest, and he gave me his phone number. He used to call the house to see how I was doing when I was in Iraq. It was pretty unique relationship, and that's what, when I heard about it, that's what I really wanted to get involved, because of the legacy.
So, Jen, if I may add to um, Steve's story, he's being a bit modest when he describes his involvement with the foundation. It's no small feat that he's both the vice president of the foundation and the education chair. And as we dive into the scholarship program and all that entails, you'll understand why I'm telling you that.
Yeah. So I wanted to turn it over to you, Michael. And for anyone that is hearing your story for the first time on the show, I will link your interview in the show notes from 2020. But tell us your professional background and your involvement with the foundation.
Yes, ma'am. And that's a nice segue to my Bob Feller story. I proudly served in the world's greatest Navy, the United States Navy, for 24 years. And ironically, it's kind of how you and I formed the friendship that we now have, Jen, is we got on a conversation, found out that you're a Gold Star member, and thank you for that. And as far as my career goes, I was what's known originally as a dispersing clerk in the United States Navy. I joined in 1985. Like I said, I served 24 years. Retiring in 2009 is what's known as a chief personnel specialist. So I used to run around telling people I was a DK by trade and a personnel specialist by forced conversion. And shortly after retiring from the Navy in 2009, I started working for the Department of Veterans Affairs, where I did various tasks for them, basically all more or less administrative payroll support related, with my final position being what's known as a systems and procedures analyst, where I worked on a enterprise service desk, meaning a national customer support center, providing payrolls. Well, more specifically, the VA uses a web-based time and attendance system, cleverly named the VA Time and Attendance System, or VATAS for short. That web-based timekeeping system services over 400,000 plus VA employees. For people that are not aware, the VA is the second largest government agency, second only to the Department of Defense, as far as the number of employees. So that was a pretty, as you can tell by the numbers, pretty large, could be at times daunting task. Did I personally interact with 400,000 plus VA employees? No, I did not. What I did interact with were what we call our timekeepers and payroll officers, and those number in the thousands. So pretty kept me busy, and it kept me busy enough to think about retirement. And I happily retired from that position in October of last year. So I'm now twice retired, and as I walk around telling anyone that will listen, I am hashtag happily retired, living up to my motto of retire early and often. So as far as the foundation goes, as I was leaving the Navy in 2009, and I was looking, we, the Navy in particular, and you can relate to this, Jen, we are very traditional when it comes to our retirement ceremonies. So I was thinking long and hard about who I wanted to be the guest speaker for my retirement ceremony. And I thought of Bob Feller, and this is way ahead of me becoming involved with the foundation, okay? So I'm looking at Bob Feller, and I'm going, okay, what are the parallels? Why would Bob Feller want to speak at my retirement ceremony? Because I'm going to have to sell it to him, right? So number one is he's from Van Meter, Iowa, and I'm from Davenport, Iowa. So we got two Iowa boys. Secondly, he was a Navy Chief Petty Officer, the gunner's mate, Chief Petty Officer in the Navy, serving on the USS Alabama battleship in World War II. Secondly, and for me, I'm a Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy. So that's parallel universe item number two. And then last but not least, this is my funny haha one. He was a Hall of Fame baseball pitcher. And in my mind, at least, I was a Hall of Fame softball pitcher. Played a lot of softball in my Navy days. So that was my selling point to Bob. So I call his museum in Van Meter. Mm-hmm. And this nice old lady answers the phone, like the curator there at the museum. And I was like, letting her know what I'm telling you guys on the interview here, that, hey, I'm looking to secure Bob Feller as the guest speaker for my retirement ceremony. How do I go about that? She goes, well, here's his phone number. And she gave me his home phone number. So
just like that.
Oh, yeah. So I call him up, and let's just say he was not so happy that I had his home phone number. And in the Navy Chief Petty Officer community, we operate on a first name basis. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it should have been a Bob and Mike phone call. Of course, I don't call him Bob. I'm calling him sir, hey, sir, mm-hmm. Mr. Feller, and hey, sir. But the expectation from him to me would be he would refer to me as Mike, not Chief, but he starts calling me Chief on the call. So once he starts referring to me as Chief, I know it's not going to end well. And sure enough, He's like, well, I'm sorry, Chief, you can't afford me to be your guest speaker. And I said, well, out of curiosity, Mr. Feller, how much do you charge? He goes, $10,000 is my speaking fee. And I said, you're right, sir. I can't afford that. And he's like, well, Chief, you congratulations on your retirement. You have a nice life. Click. And
Wow.
so when Peter Furtick, for some strange reason, I to this day, I don't know how he's on my LinkedIn connections, but he shows up on his birthday as, in LinkedIn, you can wish people happy birthday.
Mhm.
And I got the birthday prompt for Peter Furtick. And I initially thought it was some lieutenant that I worked with. I did a double take. I was like, no, he's the founder, CEO, president of the Bob Feller Foundation. I go, let me reach out to this guy and see if he wants to hear my Bob Feller story. On his birthday, I sent him a message to that effect. And on his birthday, Peter calls me. Okay, he calls me like, hey, Chief, doing my best Peter Furtick impersonation, by the way. Hey, Chief, let me hear your story. And so I tell him the same story I just shared with you. And he's, oh, that's great. He goes, let's get back on a call Sunday. I'm out to dinner with my family. Let me call you Sunday and let's talk more. And so he calls me back on Sunday. We talked for like over an hour that Sunday. And at the end of the call, he invited me to become a member of what we refer to as Team 19, which is Bob Feller's number, and be a military. So back then, and this was in 2019, is the year I came on board the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a military advisor. So yeah, I've been with the foundation for seven years now.
Yeah.
And back then, a military advisor, basically the roles and responsibilities was we got to vote for the Major League Baseball player that receives the Bob Feller Award. It's pretty much the gist of it back then. And as Steve can attest, we have evolved tremendously from 2019 to now as far as what we're about. And we'll dive into that here momentarily. But thank you for the opportunity to share both my career path and my involvement with the foundation. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that within the foundation, I started as a military advisor.
Mm-hmm.
I was a fundraising chair for a while. Apparently, I did well enough as fundraising chair that a couple of the board members recognized my accomplishments, and they actually advocated for me to become a board member. Chad Lennon, as a matter of fact, was specifically the one that recommended me to become a board member. And so I sat on the board for a while. And then I had, unfortunately, due to family personal issues, I had to resign my position from the board. And then I took some time away from the foundation due to those same reasons. And then not too long ago, I'll say in the last year or two, I started going back to school to Grand Canyon University to study sports and entertainment management. So I contacted the current executive director for the foundation, Leo Bochar, and I asked Leo if I could come back on board as a student intern. So I came back on board as a student intern, working specifically with Leo and specifically with the Champions of Valor, which we're going to get to here in short order. And that's kind of been my swim lane, and I've been actively involved with that. I've actually gone to Cleveland, Ohio on a couple of occasions to help facilitate that. And I'll let Steve will explain more about that here shortly. And that's pretty much where we're at. So thanks again for the opportunity to share all that. And I'll throw it back to you, Jen.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's always important to get to know my guest, sometimes before a session, but why not during a recording as well? And I just, want to thank you both for your service and the work that you're doing today and your continual love to serve the military community. Steve, I just want to check in with you. Is there anything you wanted to add to anything that Michael had shared?
No, Michael, he's been a bit humble too. He's really added to our foundation as a board member and currently is helping with the Champions of Valor. We're very fortunate to have him because, as everyone knows, when it's all pretty much except the executive director is volunteer, and so it's hard to get people to want to volunteer as much as they need to in order to keep this foundation going. So we're very fortunate people like Michael to help us out, because people that are really committed, it's hard to find. And Michael's one of them. So
Thank you, Steve.
I wonder if you guys like talked before this call and say, "Hey, let's fluff each other's egos and act all modest." I'm just kidding. I'm sure that did not happen.
The truthful answer to that is no, it did not happen. But as you're probably figuring out, Steve and I have talked quite often and for lengthy periods of time along the way. We've formed a pretty close friendship, I feel.
Yeah,
So,
I imagine for me.
I have a lot of respect for Steve, not just what he's done with the foundation, but for his military career as well, and the family man that he is. He's a very solid family man as well.
All right, go on. No, I'm kidding. Your turn, Steve.
That's it.
I'll just be here.
Stroking,
I'm not
stroking,
really.
We're stroking egos here, aren't we?
No, I love it. Well, considering how you two have been working together for all these years, obviously it makes sense that you've developed a respect for one another. So I'm not surprised at all. It's pleasant for me to hear people who've worked together for a while, like actually get along. And I just imagine it makes the foundation that much more meaningful, because you're not just doing it for the intended people, but you're doing it because of each other and the joy you have working together.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, that being said, let's go ahead and move forward to what we're here for, which is the Champions of Valor Scholarship Program. I've read this, but of course, I'd want to hear about it from you both. I think it's an amazing scholarship program. Let me start with Michael. Michael, you reached out to me first about this. And how long have you been involved with this program? And then we'll turn it over to Steve momentarily.
So indirectly, as far as the scholarships go, not so much. I'm not directly involved with the scholarship piece of it. I've interacted with Steve. I've actually provided some feedback and thought processes with Steve on how we could, enhance it for people. But the Champions of Valor is, for me personally, my real passion. And if you're going to allow me to speak on that for a moment, what that entails is we as a foundation, and Steve, help me if I say this incorrectly. The Champions of Valor program is a program that falls under the auspices of the Bob Feller Active Valor Foundation. Okay, it's kind of a separate entity in and of itself. And the Champions of Valor, what that's all about is we as a foundation, we go in as a partnership. We're partnered with the Cleveland Guardians Baseball Club, okay, the Major League Baseball Club. They're a partner with us, along with the Northern Ohio Boys and Girls Club, specifically that Boys and Girls Club, but it's the Boys and Girls Club of America. And what we do is we come in and we teach those kids, okay, the Boys and Girls Club, and they're basically school-age kids, okay, on what we refer to as the 4 pillars of leadership. And we have a set curriculum. And I'll let Steve speak more to the whole curriculum, because he basically was instrumental in developing that curriculum. And so I'm just the beneficiary of Steve's, his legwork and, time and effort that he put into the program. I'm a beneficiary of that, in the sense that I just get to simply walk into Cleveland, Ohio, go to Progressive Field, hang out with kids for about an 8-hour period all day, go over the curriculum that Steve and his team has developed. And if you allow me to speak, what we actually do is we roll out this curriculum. We go like classroom instruction type stuff. We break for lunch. We feed them pizza, and we finish up the activities for the day. And then we cap it all off by taking the kids out on the ball field there in Cleveland. And they get to run the base. So it's really, sorry, get a little emotional.
Take your time.
Really cool. Yeah, it's really cool to see the joy in those kids' faces, because if you know anything about the Boys and Girls Club, these are typically underprivileged, underserved kids, inner city, and they don't get this opportunity typically unless somebody like us provides it to them. So it means the world to me to be able to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And I'm verklempt, so I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
Steve, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, because if I can back up, this actually intertwined with the scholarship program. So I'll tell you what, because we was looking, Peter and I, and we was just about the only one involved in it in the beginning. This was probably back about 2017, I think. We was looking some to instill young people into the four pillars of service, sacrifice, citizenship, and the legacy of the great nation, or the legacy of. We always ask the question, what do you want to be remembered for? Meaning, this as a giving person. So, in the legacy of Bob Feller, his baseball career. 2 days after Pearl Harbor, he enlisted. Right in the height of his career, he was already probably destined for the Hall of Fame. 2 days after Pearl Harbor, he enlisted, and we used that Bob Feller story to instill that in young people of giving us up, not about themselves, but about others. So that's kind of what we instill the four pillars. So Peter and I started out with just getting, actually started out 9 to 14-year-olds to, through schools and whatnot to write an essay, pick one of the Hall of Fame, which are 39, and study that and then write an essay. And then we'd choose the essay that we thought was the best. And then we honored them actually in DC along with our other award. So that developed into the scholarship program because actually back along and Michael knows him well, Nick Patrici, he used to be a non-paid executive director, and he said, why don't we roll that into a scholarship program? So we did, between him and I and actually Chad Lemon at the time, how we developed the curriculum, which we can get into later. But having said, we Pete had another opportunity to take it further with getting the Boys and Girls Club involved, so that they wanted like team building type activities, and was going to present that. So that's when I first started really laying out the curriculum that we use as Champion Valor today, based on those four pillars. And so when we had the opportunity to do it in Cleveland, we kind of massaged that a little bit with Leo's help, and at the time with another person within the Guardians. So we did our first one in, I think it was 2022, our first session with Guardians. And like Michael said, it was very touching because, you was in uh, underprivileged area of Cleveland, and just to see the reaction of the kids that, teaching them about the four pillars. And it was really instrumental in getting us to take it further. And since then we've had two other, and it gets better and better. We get it more each time we do it, we just add more, and it gets better developed. And now we have Lee Exposure, as Michael said. He has done a lot. He's taken what I started out with and just gone to another.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, and I can sense the passion and Michael's emotional reaction to sharing his experience working with inner city kids. I'm hearing about this part for the first time, so to hear how it has evolved to what we have with the scholarship program now, it's really fascinating to hear the evolution. How the foundation is not static; it's continuously building and improving, based on the people that you're impacting. And in this case, it's the inner city kids.
Correct. And like I said, we've always used those four pillars on everything we do because, if you think of it, service, sacrifice, citizenship, and legacy really is, it should be taught in schools. It really is. It's so important to young people, and that's how I feel anyway.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into the specifics of the scholarship program and with the Champions of Valor scholarship program and, who it's meant for. Let's start there.
So when we started the scholarship program, we very carefully looked at, who can apply, and it's evolved even more so in the first. Is 2020 was the first time we offered it. And, we thought about it, and I thought the very important element of it was the community service aspect of it. So, not so much as a student. I mean, so that's why, with the 3.0, you can still apply. I wasn't looking, I was looking for an average student. Doesn't have to be a 4.0 student, because I was looking more for what they do within the community. And so it started out, you had to be active duty in order to apply. Since then, we've added, if you're retired, or if you have a child that's has a parent that has a 214 or is currently serving, can apply, and they have to write the essay. We've kept that going to pick one of the Hall of Famers, which they can go on our website and see what the Hall of Fame player did, and they pick them and try to incorporate our 4 pillars within their essay, and that's what we use, as well as community service, and that's how we pick in 3 different categories. One would be for veteran, and one is for a child of a veteran and a spouse. And so there's 3 different categories, and we give $2,000 scholarships for each. So last 2 years, we've give out 5, and the 2 or 3 years prior to that, we gave out 6 $2,000 scholarships. So the curriculum is pretty self-explanatory on the website. If you look at who can apply, it's pretty specific. And like I said before, it started out. Now I've added the spouse too, which I thought was a very important element, and we have been getting quite a few applications for this.
I saw Michael taking notes. So Michael, I know you have some things to add.
Listening to the number of scholarships we've awarded over the years begs a question. Steve, my question, and I'm probably beating Jen to the punch with this question, is, Steve, why have we not given out more scholarships?
Well, we'd love to give out more, but it's all in money that we receive from. We do the 5.
Isn't it 2 parts to that, Steve? Number one, we obviously the money's a factor. So this is a pitch. This is a shameless pitch for donations, Jen. Okay. So we are always open to donations, and I'm sure you'll share our website that will enable people to do so. But secondly, Steve, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. This is where you come in, Jen, with promoting and making people aware that scholarship opportunities there. I don't think we've had the applicants, right, Steve?
Interesting.
Well, it's been we could add a lot more, between 40 and 50, but
okay.
If there was an ideal number you're aiming for, what would that number be for
as many as we can? I'd love to see 100.
There you go. Yeah, right.
Michael, you should just co-host with me. What else do you have for Steve?
I'm not stealing your thunder, young lady. You're the award-winning podcast. I'm just a guest.
Well, part of my skill is to embolden guests to ask each other questions, so I can just sit here and listen and learn.
Yeah, very well. You're doing it very well.
I am the window to my listeners.
Michael says the first year we've done a golf tournament. We did pretty well with that. But all of this, we have to decide what we want to give for scholarships. We have to support an organization, Veterans Moving Forward, which supply service dogs to veterans. We support that organization, as well as the Champions of Valor, because it takes money to do any of this stuff. So it's all good works, and it all goes. We don't have any money, because we give it away. Whatever we do, we find a way to give back. So it's nothing. we have money enough to survive, but the more money we make, the more we're going to give away to either more scholarships, more to service veteran organizations, or more to the Champions of Valor to give us a chance to go all over the United States to anybody that will have us to put on the Champion Valor program.
So Jen, the one thing I'd like to bring to light during this podcast, at least, is in my travels and my experience since coming on board with the foundation. When I'm very happy to share what we're doing with the foundation. I'm a sports nerd in general, so a lot of and I mentioned earlier that I was, in my mind at least, I was a Hall of Fame softball pitcher, right? Still pitch softball pitcher.
In your mind.
Yes,
in your mind.
In my mind. So a lot of my fellow softball buddies are also, as you can imagine, avid baseball fans too. So when I get on a call or visit with them and I bring up this foundation to them, one of the first things I hear is like, well, wow, I've never heard of that. And, once they've heard of it, they're like, kind of, how can I help? Like, what can I do? They want to know, they want to learn more and look into things. And so that's kind of what we're after here with a platform like yours, is to get that information out. And basically it's an awareness. Okay. It's a brand awareness, exposure for our foundation to make people aware that we exist.
I just want to add real quick.
Yes,
I just wanted to share my admiration for the work that you guys do, because you don't have to do this, like you don't have to go out of your way to try to raise funds to provide the scholarship, and of course go out of your way to even market it, to let people know that it's available. Some time ago, Michael, when you and I spoke, you brought it to my attention that, for example, there's like a nonprofit that offers scholarships to Gold Star family members to go back to school. And I literally did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's so important for me to host the show, to, share with the military community what's available outside of the military, because there's just so much goodwill in the civilian, in the private sector and the nonprofit sector, just people like you guys, just so eager to help our military. And again, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. Like, you both are retired twice over, right? Like, you don't have to do it. And yet here you are. And so it's my honor, to be able to help in any way I can to bring your scholarship to awareness in the community. So that's what I wanted to add.
So
we're very
I'm glad. So Jen, I'm glad you brought up the Folds of Honor awareness that I provided, because that's a nice segue to the story I want to share.
Okay.
So that Folds of Honor story or awareness I gave you all came from a celebrity softball classic event that I was invited. I was basically invited. Remember, Hall of Fame softball player, that would be me. I was invited to play with the veterans team as quote unquote a veteran influencer at this celebrity softball classic at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, which is where the Texas Rangers play. And the invitation came from an Air Force buddy of mine that I had met in a transition symposium event. He's a mover and a shaker. Like, he knows celebrities left and right, which is why he's able to throw this celebrity softball classic. And so not only did I get to play in the game, but I brokered a deal with TK is his name, Tim TK Klun. I brokered a deal with him to be able to make an on-field presentation to an Iwo Jima victor. So I knew ahead of time that they were going to have this World War II Marine by the name of Donald Graves. He's you can YouTube this guy and you'll be impressed with this guy, Donald Graves. YouTube, you pull up YouTube, put his name in YouTube, and they'll see several interviews with this guy. He was a flamethrower on Iwo Jima, and he survived it. So they call those people Iwo Jima victors. Okay, and this guy's just a bundle of energy. He gets on the field at home plate and he sings the national anthem. Okay, gets the crowd fired up with the national anthem. This 96-year-old youngster singing the national anthem. And then myself and one of the board members at the time, we came out to home plate to present him the autographed Bob Valor baseball. And I have the microphone and I'm explaining to the crowd who we are, right? We're the Bob Feller Foundation, and the fact that our namesake is Bob Feller, Hall of Fame baseball pitcher, his story as he went, left his major league career to be the very first professional athlete to enlist in the military and go fight in World War II. No sooner do I get those words out of my mouth, and Donald Graves grabs the microphone from my hand and he goes, "That's right." He goes, "We were patriots back then." And he just gets the crowd all fired up. And one of my all-time favorite moments. And the reason I'm sharing that story in this scenario, if you will, is it's one of the benefits of being part of the foundation. You mentioned we put in all this work and without thanks. Well, for me, that was a moment of gratitude to be part of that. And I also had the opportunity last year, myself and Leo, the executive director, went up to Globe Life Field and we presented. We give out gloves to the players that are nominees. Like the Rangers nominated a pitcher. I'm brain farting on his name right now, but he was the Rangers.
John Gray.
Yeah, what is it? Jonathan Gray.
John Gray.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes. He was the nominee for the Rangers, and so we got to go up and make that on-field presentation of the glove to him and his wife. It was really nice. So things like that are a way that the foundation gets to say thanks to our volunteer efforts. So that's cool. I like it. So.
Yeah, definitely. The intrinsic value and the connections that you get is gratifying in itself. So, Steve, did you want to add anything to that?
Talk about Pedro. Talk about Pedro Martinez, Steve. Yeah. Pedro Martinez, for your benefit, Jen, is he's a Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame baseball pitcher for the Red Sox.
Okay.
And Steve hasn't really mentioned it yet, but Steve's pretty well connected with the Red Sox organization. He's a lifelong Red Sox fan. So through that affiliation, he's become personal friends with Pedro Martinez. Pedro won our Hall of Fame recipient, or the Bob Feller Hall of Fame recipient award. He won that a couple years ago, and he was not able to make the ceremony. He was not able to travel to Washington, D.C. to receive the award. So we traveled to spring training. When I say we, Steve traveled to oh my God, where the Red Sox do spring training. He'll tell you. And he was able to make that an on-field presentation of the award there at their ballpark in spring training. So take it from there.
I don't know if Michael explained that each baseball club, MLB club, can nominate somebody, have the opportunity, and then as board members, we select who we want as recipient of the award. And every year we also pick a Hall of Famer. Usually it's one that, like, for instance, Raleigh Fingers was our recipient last year, and because he served in the Army Reserves, and we've also honored a lot of it's either their service or a lot of it is what they do for veterans or just community service. And so, and we've honored people like Randy Johnson. He's been over to war zones to entertain troops through the USO, I don't know how many times. So he's one of our honorees. And Pedro, because of his, it kind of intertwines with what we do for the kids for the Champions of Valor. He helps underprivileged kids within the Boston area and the Dominican Republic with his Pedro Martinez Foundation. And believe it or not, I mean, he really loves veterans. That's all I can tell you. And so that was our interaction down at spring training. That's how we actually met, through another veteran that actually wanted to give him the shirt that was the 82nd Airborne, like where I served in. And so when we give that to him, he was so thrilled with it. And then just how he was, I decided the following year to give him one of the flags that I flew. I was in Iraq. And that touched him so much. He was really in tears about it. So ever since that, we've had a really close relationship. So I nominated him as one of the recipients for the Hall of Fame award 2 years ago. And we voted for him, but he was unable to make it because he had another activity to go to, which is all centered around helping others. So he said, I'll make it. I'll make sure I make it. So this year he came through and they arranged it so we could do it at spring training. And then we actually was able to go up in the radio booth and I was able to talk about what we do with the foundation. It was a pretty amazing moment. He's just such a giving guy that he's done so much for underprivileged children. So that connection.
Yeah. It's amazing to hear a lot of influential people who also want to be selfless and give back to those who don't have the same opportunities. It warms my heart because I think the way that I relate to it in my own way is being a Gold Star family member and just, my mom, she didn't tap into anything Gold Star related in those early years. I mean, we leaned against family and thank goodness for family, but it was only really till I started podcasting, 6 years ago of the resources that are available. And, in my mind, I think, why would people want to go out of their way to help me, and just hearing from your guys' perspective and your heart and the gratification and helping people less advantaged it's heartwarming. It's just nice to know that there's that level of support. And like I said, it just warms my heart to hear how humble and eager you are to give back and help is what's coming up for me.
Jen, if you recall, when I made you aware of the whole it's called the Folds of Honor. Okay, the Folds of Honor is the charity organization, the nonprofit that provides scholarships to Gold Star members. If you recall, when I told you my story, it goes back to that playing with the veteran softball team at the Celebrity Softball Classic. The team I played for was Folds of Honor. That's the charity we were directly representing, right? And so I'm in the elevator, and I was at the Lowe's Hotel right next to the stadium there, in the elevator going down to get ready to play with my uniform. My uniform consisted of a ball cap and the shirt, right? The jersey with Folds of Honor on it. And this lady looks at me and she goes, are you with Folds of Honor? And I go, no, ma'am. I go, I'm just, I'm playing in a softball game, benefiting them, for a charity, and she goes, well, I just want to say thank you. She goes, I'm a Gold Star mother, and my daughter's got scholarships. She goes, so thank you. And kind of hit me like it's hit me now. It hit me then. It's like, whoa, it's reality.
Thank you for sharing that. And, you two are grown men and you're tearing up. It fills my heart. And part of why I'm focused on this right now is for people who want to apply for the scholarship. They have to know, I want them to hear where you're coming from and where your heart and passion is and sense of responsibility is behind all of this. Because, and I think about like my own family and just this stoic, we had this stoic demeanor of like, we could be self-sufficient. We don't really need anyone but family. We have each other. We're resourceful. And so to know that there are people who are eager to help, that's what I'm hoping to capture in this conversation, is knowing that you really want to help. And for anyone listening to this, like, you are deserving. You're deserving of this scholarship. Like people are hungry, like you guys are hungry to give away your money. You know, you're hungry, you're broke because you keep giving away the money. You want to give it away willingly. So the money is
Right.
there. The money is there, and the effort to raise the money and to raise the awareness, it's there. And, you know, for that military spouse or veteran or, you know, student of military family hearing this, they want you to take their money. They want you to take the scholarship. They want you to apply. So
It's
did
called free
I get
money.
that right? Yeah, did I get that
Free
right?
money. Free money.
Yeah.
Free money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very moved by it. I'm very moved by it. So I just want to thank you both, and just I'm still taking in the heart behind it. You know, so I keep saying heart because that's my point of reference. It's like, you know, I talk to, like, military spouses talk, like they pour their hearts out all the time, you know, but for me to talk to you both and hear the love and the sense of responsibility behind the work you do, it's different. It lands differently.
Well, Jen, if I may, uh, it's one of the things that warms my heart with interacting with you. It's I consider you a friend at this point. Is the three of us on this call at a minimum are what I like to refer to as like-hearted individuals. And that's not a Mike original. I actually have a friend of mine, and Steve, you know her, Charlinda Scales, she donated. She was one of our scholarship donors. She actually endowed a scholarship in honor of her grandfather. She's actually trademarked that phrase, like-hearted.
Yeah.
Not
I like that.
like-minded, like-hearted.
I like that. That's the first time I'm hearing that.
So you can make it your own. You just can't put it on any literature. You can't sell it.
Okay, I won't trademark it.
Oh, she's trademarked it. I'm not lying. She trademarked.
Okay,
She
well then.
trademarked it. Yeah, she's a very smart businesswoman.
It's amazing. So, for anyone that's interested in the specifics of the scholarship, we'll have that in the show notes. But I wanted to hear from you, Steve, because you mentioned that you recently opened it up to spouses. Can you tell us about what that's been like to receive spouse applicants? And if you had any that did win the scholarship, you know, what's that journey been like to, you know, give them that free money for education?
Yeah. So, you know, and especially on the spouses, you know, I'm like the final person, I guess, to decide. Sometimes you get a lot of, you know, a lot of applicants. It's so hard to choose one, you know, and, you know, on the spouse side, especially if they, you know, if their spouses were fallen, uh, you know, if they're a Gold Star family member, I really, you know, lean towards that heavily. And in fact, the last year, one was they had lost their husband, so I pick her. But some of the stories, because the spouse is a little bit different, because we want to hear their story about, you know, as a spouse is kind of separate from writing an essay. It's um their journey as a spouse, how that's impacted family. And when you hear, you know, stories about losing that husband, I mean, it really does touch you to realize the sacrifice. So I lean heavily on rewarding those type of individuals. So, but and really that's the difference in having them write an essay. All they have to do is write their experiences. Like, you know, I know my wife. It's like she had to do everything while I was gone. I mean, snowball and stuff, like get the wood in, and right at the time during my deployments, I had a young family. She took them all because they was very active in sports, and so she not only did everything in the man chores, she called it, but also taking them to all the events and being involved. And it's tough on families too. My youngest boys especially really had a hard time, and still to this day I think it was result of you know, me being gone. So the spouses really deserve a lot of recognition and to realize what they have to endure while we're gone, while they you know, and not only that, when you're overseas, just to worry and try to run a household at the same time. It's very difficult. So I really applaud my wife and everyone, Michael's wife, and everyone that's has to endure the hardships of raising a family during those times.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that and for acknowledging your wife and spouses. And I'm especially taken by the requirement for the essay, which is so little but still so significant, which is to share their experience of being a military spouse. You have different requirements for them, and it's everything. Yesterday or the other day in my writing workshop, a military spouse was, she's seasoned, almost 20 years in with her husband. And she was sharing this poem about her own experience as a spouse and how so much of what she ever wanted was put off to the back burner, like career and what have you. And I just really appreciate that your desire to just hear out their story is more than enough for them. Like, that's credible enough, because I think that a lot of spouses feel like they don't have like an established resume, or they don't have certain, career credentials. Right. But to say that, hey, all you got to do in this essay is tell your story. I mean, like, I'm speechless. I'm speechless to know that is the most important thing for the application.
And if I might add, I think is that, like, I decided to, the only ones that have to be full time are the children, the students of military families, like the veteran currently serving service member, or the spouse only has to be part time too, because I know it's like they have to. Some are trying to get an education by raising a family and everything, so they don't have to be full time either. Those veteran service members or the spouse, they can be just part time enrolled, and they're eligible to apply.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Steve, anything else you want to add before I turn it over to Michael?
So you have all the information. All you have to go is our website and under education and scholarships, and it tells you step by step of all the eligibility plus what they have to do to apply. And it's from June 1st to October 1st. I'm a little bit lenient on, if I receive some like a week or so afterwards, I still accept them. In fact, I've already received some before June 1st, but I'll accept them. Like, I'm overwhelmed with them. So
let's overwhelm Steve, y'all. Apply. All right, Michael, what do you have to share?
When I take a step back or just sit and reflect on what I consider to be the most honorable professions someone can enter into, I have a specific hierarchy that I follow. First and foremost, I have the utmost respect for teachers. And they're at the top of my list because those of us that are parents, I know when I sent my daughter off to school, I'm entrusting the care and nurturing and everything of my daughter to that teacher. So that's why I have the utmost respect for teachers. Secondly, our first responders, firemen, policemen, EMS types. I think that's pretty self-explanatory why I would hold them in high regard. And then, believe it or not, my third category hierarchy is military spouses. And the reason I have them and I hold them in such high regard is I'm married to one, okay? And I saw firsthand what she had to go through dealing with me. And, the thing of what I was writing down here so I wouldn't forget to say it is the spouse. And Jen, correct me, once upon a time, you're a military spouse, right?
Well, I like to say I'm a veteran spouse because I met my husband after his service. I don't, to me, when I think military spouse, I think active duty. Like to me, that's who I honor. And I don't want to take that away from the active duty spouse.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying because you enlightened me there. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So I will bring it back to the active duty because this is specific to the active duty
Mhm.
spouse. Is they fill the void when the spouse, and I'll use myself as the example. When I was away out to sea on a Navy ship, specifically, my wife filled the void. She's everything, right? She's mom and dad, uh, taking care of everything while I'm away. And then the added challenge, and the other thing I took note of is, again, my personal experience is when I would come back home after being away for, uh, uh, I'm kind of cheating a little bit in my scenario because I was on the USS Blue Ridge, the flagship, and we didn't go out to sea too like not a regular Westpac like most 6 month deployments. They were like maybe 2 months at a time. But let's just say that 2 months I come back and my wife has to deal with me. You know what I'm saying? There's
Reintegration.
that challenge. There is the challenge of because she's established a battle rhythm, okay, a battle rhythm in the home, especially with a kid, okay, our daughter, okay, you got that battle rhythm going on, and then I come back home and I disrupt that,
Mm-hmm.
and so the spouse has to deal with that, and it's not easy. That's where my respect factor comes in for the military spouse. So military spouses, you have nothing but my much respect from me. So,
Likewise.
Yeah.
so thank you for being there uh, for us.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Yeah,
That's all I got.
absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing and really putting emphasis on military spouses because in the recent seasons or this last past year, I have felt really compelled to hyper focus on the military spouse going through military retirement because she's lived it. And I just say she, generally speaking, obviously there could be male spouses as well. But,
Mm-hmm.
for the spouses that we have worked with at our company, when I think about the military community, I think about the military spouse and just the thankless labor and sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm.
unappreciation even from their kids. I'm talking about myself and how much I did not appreciate my mom while she was a military spouse. And it's, later in life now, it's just been a passion of mine to really advocate for them. So I'm going to shift gears here just a little bit as we start to wrap up. Again,
Mm-hmm.
the scholarship information will be available in the show notes. And I wanted to share with you both, I talked about this via email and conversations with you, Michael, but part of my passion, one thing that we have noticed with our company is that at military retirement, when we're talking about the pension,
Mm-hmm.
the survivor benefit plan is
Mm-hmm.
involved. And you tell me, Michael, because I know you've worked a lot with service members about this, but
Mm-hmm.
the survivor benefit plan decision can be completely made without the spouse. It could be almost automatic if, and it could be, could not be. And this is great because I like seeing your reaction on this. And for me, what I've come to learn and part of my advocacy with the show and presenting things outside of the military is
Mm-hmm.
so that our spouses can have more, they can make more confident and informed decisions for their next chapter by knowing what's available, such as your
Mm-hmm.
organization. And so I'm just curious to hear about what your experience has been like. And Steve, feel free to add as well when it comes to the
Mm-hmm.
military retirement process and, the spouse's involvement in military retirement. And, of course, you can speak from personal experience as well. But I'm most interested in hearing, what she goes through and in the case of, let's say, the survivor benefit plan, what has been your experience in, advising service members?
Well,
Go ahead, Michael.
well, Jen sees me laughing because she and I have had an offline discussion about this previously. And what I bring to the table with regards to this particular question and subject is, in my military career, I was payroll specialist. And yes, I was that guy that people, as they were retiring from the Navy, which is the branch of service I was in, would come to me as the subject matter expert in payroll matters, asking me for advice on, hey, Mike, or hey, Blankers, or hey, DK1, or hey, Chief, what should I do? Do I take the survivor's benefit plan or not? And I'm going to tell you, Jen, on this call, the same
Listeners.
thing, and what I told you before, and what I told you before, and what I told them is it's a personal choice. It's an individual. Each person, it's a personal decision based on your personal circumstances. And what I mean when I say that is, it depends on how you're set up financially going into retirement. So if you planned really well for your retirement, meaning you've got a robust portfolio, right, of specifically protection, because what survivor's benefit plan is essentially is it's a replacement for life insurance. Okay. Is my definition of it, or it's in addition to life insurance. But if you've got a robust life insurance portfolio, like if you're like Steve and you've got a $5 million life insurance policy, you don't need survivor's benefit. In my humble opinion, you don't need survivor's benefit plan.
Right.
But if you're like me, when I retired, I'll use myself as the example. I did not have a multi-million dollar, or that mega life insurance policy. So I took what I call the path of least resistance, or the safe route of the survivor's benefit plan, meaning it's guaranteed money for my wife. It's peace of mind to know that my wife is going to get, in my case, she's going the plan itself is 50% of whatever your retirement annuity is, okay, for the rest of their days. So I know you're not asking me to define what it is. You just wanted to know what my thing. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's important to ask, and more importantly, to at least bring awareness to the military spouse in understanding what it is. And so to me, it's great to hear that, like, the key thing I like to just make sure I stress upon is it's a confident and informed decision, as opposed to just another thing to check off on the military retirement checklist. And it sounds like, you obviously know where you're at financially. And that's the key thing is hearing that, because I'll tell you from what I have heard in the conversations I've had with spouses, half the time it's, oh, I just leave that to my husband, or, oh, I had no idea. I had no idea about it. So that's why I think it's important to hear where you're coming from, and also why you chose your decision inevitably.
Let me add this comment as well, Jen, for your listeners out there, or followers, what have you. With regards to the survivor's benefit plan, the spouse, believe it or not, controls that to some degree, in the sense that the service member, if they're not going to elect it, the spouse has to sign off on it.
Right.
So they're aware. Right. They're aware of that, because it's in place to protect the spouse per se, right? But if you got Slick Rick service member that thinks he doesn't, he wants to save the extra $150 a month, he doesn't want to pay into that for his wife to get a percentage of his annuity, he not so fast, my friend. The wife has to sign paperwork acknowledging that she's waiving the right to receive it. So I want your spouses out there to know that, to be aware of that. Yes. In case their Slick Rick husband try to just, hey, sign this, honey. Yeah. Have them pay attention to what they're signing.
Well, thanks, Michael. I appreciate hearing you elaborate on that. And it's not really for me, it's for
No, I know.
the spouses I've spoken to. So I just thank you. Thank you for providing that.
Right?
Yes,
I
Steve,
might
please.
add, it's just like Michael said, it's more, it's a security thing. I like to dab it. I just, and when you talked about it, I just want to make sure you never know what's
Right.
going to happen. So it's security, my wife.
Mhm.
So we got it because you just never know down the road, could, with your health or anything else. So to me, it's a security thing. I know I'd like to get it. So,
Mhm.
and my wife thought it was a good idea as well, but it is a personal decision.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you both indulging me. I think part of maybe this is just my gold star background and being able to lean into these conversations. So I want to say thank you for indulging me on that topic. And with that, I think we covered everything, guys. I mean, let's wrap up with this. When it comes to the scholarship, think of like maybe one or two. What has been most gratifying in offering the scholarship? Is there a particular person or like ceremony or handoff where you're like, that's why I do all this. That's why I give away free money. That's why I, do the fundraising and the awareness and being on this show. Go ahead.
If I may, I'll lead off on that. I touched on it earlier when I mentioned my friend. She's become a close personal friend of mine, Charlinda Scales. She's a vetrepreneur, okay, and she may be. I'm going to throw this out to you. She may be somebody you might want to bring on your show someday. She's a sought after speaker. Actually, she does red TED Talks and everything, and she kind of at my request, if you will, I approached her and said, "Hey, what do you think about the idea of donating the $2,000 for a scholarship, and let's do it in your grandfather's honor?" Because she owns a company called Mutt Sauce. That's where the vetrepreneur title comes in. It's just a sauce. I'll leave it there. And it's named after her grandfather, William Mutt Farrell. And so the scholarship was the William Mutt Farrell Memorial Scholarship. And he was an Air Force veteran. Okay. Mm-hmm. The reason I'm going long in the teeth on this was, for me personally, that was gratifying to have somebody I personally know make a direct contribution and have that scholarship awarded to a service member. That meant a lot to me personally. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, thank you, Michael. Steve?
I think to me, I mean, I could email them. I always call, tell them they're going to receive, and just the reaction. It's like it's unbelievable. And I remember one that she just get out of the military, and she's trying to go to school, raise a family, and she like just screamed out and enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think reactions when you tell them, it's almost like first they think, well, I've had, to be honest with you, the number they give you, I've called, and I've had them hang up on me. It's like, so I call back.
No,
and I said,
it's real. It's not a scam.
You want a $2,000?
Shut the front door! Shut the front door!
That's really funny.
I think it's the initial reaction. They're always invited to come to a event in DC. We can't pay for it, but we do announce them and put up a picture of them and tell them the school they're going to be going to. And I think that's gratifying. And I have to stay in contact to get all the information. And I think it's a personal relationship that I have, just a interaction with them, because you almost know them really, because you have to tell them what's expected and help them through the process of having it paid to them and things like that. I think that's really rewarding to me. And I've even had, I've contacted them to even speak after, tell the story of what you did after you got the scholarship and how much it helped. And I actually had one person that had given the scholarship, and the person that was chosen for that scholarship, I had the recipient to contact the person to give the scholarship, because you can, in your name or organization, if you give $2,000, it will go under your name, as well as if somebody wants to share a scholarship, like if they wanted to give $1,000, I combine that with another $1,000 donation, and recognize them both for a scholarship that will go to a particular person.
Yeah. I mean, what a blessing to be the one to change someone's life.
Yeah, it's really very rewarding, and it's laid out there. It's a little work, but as we all know, when you put the work out there, sometimes you can get the reward for it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Steve. Michael, I just want to thank you both again, Steve and Michael, for being on the show, and just thank you for the work you do. I enjoy being around like-hearted people, as Michael has referenced. Credit to someone else, of course. It's trademarked already. Look it up. And yeah, and absolutely. So thank you both so much for your time. And I think that's a wrap. In case anyone wants to look up the website now and not go to the show notes, the website is actofvaloraward.org. And once you visit the website, there's a whole section about the scholarship, but I will provide the direct link to that in the show notes of this episode. So thank you all so much. And until next time, we'll chat with you in the next episode. Hey, thanks for listening. If you're seeking a second opinion on the Survivor Benefit Plan, subscribe to our podcast now at InsideTheFort.com. That's InsideTheFort.com. Once you subscribe, you will receive a free download to the introduction of my book, The Military Spouse Benefit Plan. Why? Because you've spent years holding it down for your family, and we are dedicated to helping you own what's next. See you on the inside at InsideTheFort.com, or we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.